Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our TED Talk. Today we will speak about the moon. And let me ask you first, who have seen the moon already today? Vasants, have you? Not yet?
No, no.
It must be late in your place. So,
Yeah, but
so we started to discuss it, and Teacher Lee wrote something strange in our chat. 11 minutes. What is 11 minutes, Teacher Lee?
Oh, that's just how long the TED Talk was. It was a short TED Talk.
Ah, okay, okay. I was thinking it's about the moon, something, some code about its form. So I know how to call full moon when it's big, yeah, when it's full circle. Well, how we call it when it's like a small, like a stripe, only stripe?
Like a banana, we call it banana shape.
Banana
We
shape.
call that we call that crescent.
Crescent. Okay.
Crescent shaped.
and the crescent?
The Muslim flags have a crescent shape with a star. I can't remember, but yeah, we call that a crescent moon. Yeah.
Can you remember that Muslim flag, like this crescent shape? It's like horizontal position, not like vertical like in Europe, but horizontal.
Okay, like a bowl. Okay.
Yeah, like a bowl, exactly. And the same way on masjid, how to pronounce it? On their churches, masjid, how they say this? Muslim churches. It's mosque. One word is mosque.
Oh, mosque. Minaret. Minaret.
Another word, masjid or something. I forgot.
I'm not sure of that one.
Gerard, do you have a question?
There's a minaret. A mosque is big and a minaret is small, skinnier, but.
Yeah.
So the crescent-shaped moon is like the opposite of a C letter.
Well, it can be any. It can be any direction as it goes across the sky. It may be on the top or the side or the bottom.
But when the moon is growing, there must be a name, and when the moon is diminishing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there are different phases.
We call that waxing and waning.
Okay.
Wax is get bigger, and wane is get smaller.
So waxing moon.
Yeah, today we have a waxing moon. Yeah, it's just started to grow up. Yeah. So,
okay, getting bigger. Okay.
So how can we say that it's newborn moon or something?
When you can't see it, it's all in shadow. We call it a new moon.
Okay.
And it waxes and gets bigger and bigger, so it becomes crescent, and then 1/2, and then bigger than 1/2, and then full, and it goes in a cycle.
Okay.
So once it's full, it wanes until it's new and you can't see it, and then it waxes the other way. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. In my language, we have many words for moon. We have like a different word for different stages. Yeah. So when it's full, when it's half, when it's small.
We do too, but usually just for like general, not detailed. You know, we have quarter moon, 3/4 moon, and crescent moon. When it's crescent, we don't have names for different amounts of crescent. It's just crescent.
Okay. You see, it's interesting, yeah. And speaking about Asia, I found that in Asia, probably was in your place as well. So crescent is in horizontal position, not vertical like in Europe, but horizontal. And now I understand why on the mosque and on the flag they have it like this, like a ball. Teacher me said because it's really I will try to make a photo for you, but it's really different from European part.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go after a little bit warming up about the moon. Let's go to the talk directly. So, yeah. So what I remember from the talk, it's 2 words: synesthesia. Is it correct? Synesthesia and another one, twins. So why synesthesia? Why twins? How it's applied to TED Talk? Vasants, could you start, please?
Yes. Synesthesia means
when in earlier times the Earth was spinning and the speed was faster than what it have right now. So it almost like eclipse. How do we say that? The shape of an egg. An egg. Yeah.
Egg shaped.
Yeah, egg shaped. So because of the rotation and another Jupiter sized planet. When Earth is collided with another Jupiter sized planet, then all the debris stuck around with the Earth's rotation, and it all makes another new kind of planet, and it vaporizes all the water on the Earth's surface, and it makes new shape. And the moon was how to say? They say that the moon was created or something. No, not created, but it
formed from the debris.
Yeah,
from
formed,
the debris.
yeah, it formed inside. That's what she said. That's what her theory.
Okay, so let's take some dictionary from this. So debris, and S is silent, but it's wrote like debris. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oblong. I don't know actually how to read this.
Oblong.
Okay, so
oblong. When you take a circle and stretch it in one direction, we call it oblong. It's long in one direction, but not in the other direction. So it's like distorted, long in one axis. So,
and how we call planets with this stripe around with a disk. It's just a disk.
You're talking
like,
about Saturn, or
yeah, like Saturn.
Saturn, if it has debris orbiting, we call that rings.
Rings. Okay, rings. So as far as I understand, so the one of the theory about the Earth is that that it's rotated fast, and some like materials started to like go to the space, yeah, and form some debris, and then at some time this debris formed moon. So it's one theory. So synestia, what is this? It's kind of a celestial body, or it's kind of a state. How to understand? Would you describe actually synestia? What is this?
They're saying a synestia is a pre-planet that would normally be a sphere, but because it's spinning so fast, the equator material is moved outward and it becomes oblong. Like I have here, right behind, over my shoulder. So it's an oblong planetary object that's not classified as a planet yet. Planets apparently are classified as round or spherical. So when it's oblong, they don't call it a planet. They call it a synestia. But synestias apparently don't stay in that shape for a long time. They eventually become round as they lose material. So, yeah. So I would call it a pre-planet that's abnormally shaped. Yeah.
Is there a special name for this force that makes materia to separate from the celestia?
Yeah, we call it centrifugal force. Centrifugal, yeah. Centrifugal, yeah.
Centrifugal, nice. So, and I know that centrifuge, it's kind of, we call it like, in laundry we have this, yeah?
Yep, centrifuge separates solids from liquids by pushing the solids to the bottom of the test tubes. Yeah.
Yeah, you see. A lot of force. So, okay, let's think that we covered this theory about synestia, and let's go to another line of the TED Talk. Twins. Why yours and moon are twins? Gerard, do you remember?
Because they have the same isotopes. So the materials are the same. The speaker told us that that's not usual. Usually satellites have different materials than their planets.
Yeah. You know,
So it was difficult to find a theory. This theory is new to explain. It was difficult to explain why the moon has the same isotope than the Earth. As the Earth.
Yeah. Speaker, the lady said that this isotopical like track is kind of DNA for a planet. And it's something totally new for me. Before that, I was thinking that, you know, all the planets are more or less the same. Maybe in different shape, in different like form, in different mass, but the DNA, the elements are like more or less the same. But the lady speaker said that you know, it's like almost every time it's unique. It's hard to believe.
But we know that. Okay, I mean Jupiter, Saturn, they are always called gas planets. They're made with gas, and the Earth, you know that, and I think there is a lot of iron and other materials. It's not gas.
Yep.
Very different. Very different. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's discuss what an isotope is. If you're not familiar with that word, as you know, we have 109 elements or something like that. An element is defined by the number of protons. Hydrogen's 1, helium is 2, you know, lithium is 3. They may have neutrons in there also that give it the atomic weight of the whole thing. Like oxygen 16, you know, is like atomic number 8, but there's 2 of them together, so the weight is 16, even though the atomic number is 8. So there's 8 protons and 8 neutrons. So an isotope is an element, let's say oxygen, atomic number 8, the weight is normally 16, so normally it has 8 neutrons. An isotope is when you add another neutron. So it's still oxygen, but instead of oxygen 16, now it's oxygen 17. It's got an extra neutron, so it weighs more, but still 8 protons. So isotopes, I mean, all the planets may have iron, but we might have iron, I forget what iron's number is, but let's say we've got iron 56 and 57 and 58, and another planet might only have iron 56 and 57. So it's not just the elements, but it's the proportion of elements that have those extra neutrons that make isotopes. So it's the isotopes that are the fingerprint that you can tell if they're the same material. So it's a little tricky.
Yeah. It's very tricky, yeah. Before that, I was thinking, I saw that there are like 3 types of planet, you know, gas giant, yeah, something solid and something with water or ice, depend on how it's close to the sun, yeah. So it's far away, it's ice giant. If it's close, it's water, but it looks like it's not.
It's not quite that simple. Usually the inner core is solid. Like the Earth's inner core is like iron. And then there's liquid around that swirls. And then there's rock. And then we got water on the outside. So because there's liquid between the solid core and the outer solid shell, that liquid spins at a different rate than the rock. And that's what causes our magnetic field, which protects us. So I think Jupiter has a solid core on the inside. I can't remember. So if you could go deep enough, you could land, but you'd be dead before you got there.
Besides the gravitation force.
Yeah. You'd be crushed and burned and everything else.
Yeah. Humans are fragile, yeah, for space, for cosmos agassi.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know what is isotope. We know about that it's kind of DNA for planets. We know that there are many types of planets. They are mostly different. And speaker mentioned that it's more common that satellite of the planet has like different DNA than the planet. It's an interesting thing. So how they checked it? So did they have probes from these satellites, or it just by observation? So how by just observation we can say this DNA of the planet? We can distinguish them.
Well, in the case of the moon, we've gone there and we've brought back moon rocks.
Yep.
But other planets, the only thing we can look at is light frequencies, wavelengths.
So and you think that this wavelengths, it can tell us what kind of isotope on the planet?
I don't know if if it's based on the number of protons or if it's based on the atomic weight. I'm not sure. I don't know, for example, if oxygen gives a single line or if isotopes would give multiple lines. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Gerard, please.
Actually, we know that Jupiter has almost 90% of hydrogen. So the composition is known. Yes. So it's made almost for gas. Another gas there, helium, methane, ammonia, only gas, and a little bit of water, but not solid.
Right. The elements we can determine, but whether they're isotopes of hydrogen, I'm not sure. Yeah.
How we can determine these elements? How? We go there. As far as I know, Americans went on to the moon, not to the Jupiter yet. So how we know that it's 90% of hydrogen on Jupiter?
We analyze the light using a spectrometer.
Yeah.
Or spectrograph. You know what a prism is, right?
Yes.
Well, prism can break light into many pieces of light at different colors, which is different energy levels or wavelengths. So we can use telescopes to look at planets and the sunlight that reflects off the planet. If the planet's made of iron, then it will absorb the planet will absorb the light for iron, and the light we get back won't have iron light in it, if you will. So by the black lines, we can say the iron energy line is missing, so that planet must have iron in it because it's absorbing the iron frequency light.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
So just staying on the Earth, just observing this, universe. We know so much already. Without all these spaceships and Star Trek fleet and all these guys. Okay, the blue sky is very color except blue. Yeah, it's an interesting paradox.
Yeah, remember that what we say is that an object absorbs light that's the same color, and it reflects light that's a different color. So when we see something that's red, that red light is reflecting off of that surface, so that surface is not red. So we're actually seeing the color that it's not, rather than the color that it is. It's kind of a paradox, as you said.
Okay, it's interesting. Jürgen, do you have something special about this TED Talk? Do you want to share something?
No, nothing special.
Okay, so we have a few questions on our Padlet. Thank you, Vasant, very much for this. So let's answer them. So the first one, very interesting. Let's go from science to childhood. So into childhood. Do you have childhood fairy tales on the moon. About the moon or something. So what do you mean on the moon?
Yes, in my childhood, we had every mom used to feed her child like the food. How to say that? By pointing to that moon and like, oh, look at that. There is something there. Look at that. Then the child would see that moon in astonishment. So, and then the mom would feed that to her child. Every mom does that, and we have a fairy tale that there was an because we can see the black marks on the moon, right? Some dirty marks. So people used to say that, okay, there is an grandma who is cooking donuts there. So if you go there, then you can get them. So it was a funny one. We used to enjoy in our childhood.
Yeah, Jürgen, please.
Yeah, one thing from the speech, giant impact.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
So what is impact in general? Impact is something that influence you, that make some impression on you. Yeah, hit you.
Collision.
What is giant? Giant has been huge one. Yeah? Collision. Yeah. It's if one planet hit another planet, you will notice it because it's huge.
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay.
So a small impact is going to make a crater, but a giant rock is going to split the planet in half or knock a big piece off.
Yeah, or make one big planet. Yeah? It's possible.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, speaking of fairy tales, in my youth, all these fairy tales. So moon for us, it's like a living creature. It's something with a soul, So our heroes of our fairy tales, they ask moon, they talk with moon, they got advices and so on. So it's something living, yeah, not just a satellite. Anything special in Swedish fairy tales, Jürgen? Do you use moon in your fairy tales for children?
But I can't remember. Sure, it's something, but anything I can remember.
Okay. Gerard, please.
An interesting thing about the moon is it looks like the gravitation of the moon influences us, has some influence. For instance, the tides and people's behavior as well. I don't understand why full moon affects people's behavior. What do you think, Teacher Lee? Is it right?
We used to believe that. That's why the word lunatic. If you know lunatic, luna means moon. Lunatic means a crazy person. We used to believe, or some people used to believe, that the moonlight would make you crazy. and even I think I've seen in some of the movies like Dirty Harry, the police will say when the full moon is out, they have more crimes.
Yep. Yeah, I have heard about this. But I think moon has a huge influence to our life. And I'm speaking about, for instance, our calendar. Why we have months? Why we divide year to 12 parts? Jürgen, do you understand? Why months is approximately 30 days?
No, I don't know.
Basans, do you know why months is 30 days approximately?
Yeah, I think the days between new moon to full moon is 15 days, and I think a full circle of this 2/2 is 30 days. I think that's why.
Yep. Gerard, would you like that?
So the moon, 28 days is the time that the moon spins.
Yeah.
And also, it's curious that it's always women's menstruation is the last, follows the cycle.
Cycle of the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And teacher Lee wrote a funny thing in our chat. So moons became to months. Is it officially or just?
Yeah, it's the month was kind of based on the moon going around the Earth one time.
Okay.
Now you have two calendars, right? The solar calendar based on the sun, and the lunar calendar based on the moon going around the Earth. So,
yeah.
But month came from month.
Yeah. So we have kind of like combined thing together now. In modern calendar, we combine two things: year from the sun and months from the moon. But some ancient calendars, they used only lunar calendar. Right. That's why, for instance, in Thailand, today started New Year. So it's a lunar New Year. We'll have a big celebration next few days.
Okay.
Because of this, it's an old ancient calendar.
Yeah, Asians like the lunar calendar. Yeah, my wife uses the lunar calendar sometime.
And some people in Russia believe that moon and lunar calendar has a big impact to plants. So they have a special time when to seed them, when to what's the word for this? I don't know, to cut them or something.
Cultivate, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, cultivate. Yeah. It's interesting. Trim. Yeah. Okay, so another question. What is your first impression on the moon as a child? Jorgen, do you remember?
No. I don't.
Well, I do remember that all those seas on the moon, they always looked for me like eyes, and I was trying. It's looked like a face for me, something not in a good form, but something like a face. Vasant, please.
Yeah, the thing that fascinated me was it will follow you wherever you go. As a child, that really fascinated me, and we used to not exactly a hide and seek, but how do you say a game that when you catch somebody with turning.
Egg.
Yeah. So we played that kind of game in nights. That's really a funny one. Always try to beat the moon, but it always comes with us.
Yeah, I think moon is a good object, to understand all this geometry, all this physics, all this mechanics for children. Yeah, because we can see that children do make mistakes. Like if I go there, moon will be behind me. But it's you cannot do this. Giraffe, please.
What I find an incredible coincidence is that the moon and the sun have the same size. Isn't that hard to understand? The sun is a star, the moon is a satellite, and a total eclipse, the moon shadows just the size of the sun.
Yep.
It's very curious.
Yeah.
So we have next question, and it's kind of a good segue. What Gerard just said. What could be the pros and cons if we had more than one moon? And let's also cover not only more than one, but let's cover the different size. Let's imagine that moon was so small that it's hard to notice, or opposite, it was so big that then we have like an eclipse every month. So how will it have a big influence to our culture or fairy tales or I don't know, something else, our behavior? What do you think? Or share your ideas. What would you like to see? Big moon or small moon or 100 moons? Vasant, please.
Yeah, if we have too many moons with different sizes, then the moon would lost its importance, and you would. I believe that you would not have any. You would not need any electricity. I think you would have light all the night, if we have a bigger moon. So that would be a pro. And cons, yeah, moon would lost its importance. No more fairy tales on moons.
I have a con. We couldn't see the stars. If you have a moon, there is light pollution. When there's a moon, we cannot see the stars as well as when we have a new moon.
Yep.
Even now, when there's a full moon, you can't see the stars around it very well. Yeah. So if you had a big moon, yeah, you'd see a black sky. Yeah.
Do you guys think if we had like 100 moon, would we have a name for each of them? Lucy, Petty, Cheeky.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
What a mess it will be for children to learn every name and then to know where it is. It's Lucy. No, it's not Lucy. It's Petty.
Yeah.
But I think that it's better to have 100 small moons than one big one, because if we had a big one, it would be impossible to live on coast side, because these tides there will be like tsunami every day. Instead of small, medium tide, we will have a tsunami. Yeah, Vasant?
Yes, and one thing I liked about moon is it's cooler, because the sun is really hotter. But I would like to have moon all the day, 24 into 7, because it's really cooler, especially for an Indian citizen. And the tide point is really important. If we have a bigger moon, then huge tides will happen, and that would be really devastating, catastrophic, I think.
Yeah. Do you know that not all these satellites they have to be like movable on the sky? We have some satellites that they are geostationary. How to say it? Actually?
We call them geostationary.
Geostationary satellites. So like GPS system. All these satellites exactly the same point under the Earth's surface. That's why we can, calculate this delay of signal and know our position. So just imagine that moon would be a geostationary object, always in the same place in India, to cover this guy from the sun. Would it be fun?
We might die. We might go extinct. Not enough heat. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and the plants would not survive without sunlight. So we need sunlight.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Once I read in the article that some people think that there is like on the moon, moon has. I'm trying to describe this. Moon has a light side and dark side, so it's not rotating like yours. So, and there is no like a cool temperature on the moon, or it's darn hot or it's darn cold. So no nothing in between. So if you have a geostationary moon, probably on the Earth we will have the same, the same area of darn cold, area of something hot. Yeah, no in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. We used to say the light side and the dark side of the moon, but because we always see one side, so we imagine the other side is dark. But that's not really true, right? Because if the moon goes between us and the sun, our side gets dark and the other side's really light. So now, instead of saying the dark side, we usually say the far side of the moon.
Wow. Very good. Yeah. That sounds good.
Yes, and in that video, she projected about the idea of synesthesia. How to say that? Yeah, and if the moon was formed inside the collision, then where does the Earth go? I was wondering, where is the Earth? The picture showed that moon was evolved inside the sphere, spherical, the spinning sphere, but I don't see the Earth after that. That's what contradicted with that theory.
Well, the Earth wasn't destroyed. Just pieces of it were knocked off. It was like part of it was vaporized and became like dust. And then all this dust over time came together and formed a moon. So the Earth was still there. It was like Earth and some dust. And the dust formed a moon separate from the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it wasn't like it destroyed the Earth. It just broke off pieces of the Earth that formed the moon later over millions of years of gravity, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question from our Padlet. What if we had a chance to live on the moon? What would be your concern there? So, concern of teacher Lee would be oxygen, radiation, water. What else?
The basic necessities.
Food, yeah. Something important, yeah. I think if humankind would have a chance to live on the moon, we just bring all our vices to the moon as well, you know. So it's no way to have a different society, like a different planet or something. It will be yours number 2 with all those Democrats and all these things.
Yes, and I was thinking about the gravity because we hear that it has lower amount of gravity than Earth. Then if we got a chance to live there, then we have to strain a lot to move here to there, and we cannot lay roads on the surface because it's really hard to keep anything on that surface. So that would be really hard. We all would float there.
Do you remember?
Go ahead, Gerard.
You must remember a TV series in the 70s that it was named Space 1999. Do you remember? They thought that at this time we would have a base in the moon, and the moon was lost the gravity from the Earth and was projected traveling to the space.
Yeah.
So, as I said many times, science doesn't evolve as much as, you know, people's imagination.
Yeah, probably the Earth would have been destroyed or severely damaged when that happened. You know, the ocean levels would have gone snaky and who knows what all. The Earth would have spun faster. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking about moon base, so why we don't have a moon base yet, and why we need this? What would be a motivation to have a moon base? I don't understand actually. For what we can go to the moon? What do you think?
Better telescopes, for instance. A telescope from the moon would be much better than from the Earth.
Yeah, but we already have these satellites, you know, international stations, and they have telescopes.
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense. Because if let's consider some war situation. If somebody wants to attack USA, they cannot place a base on USA's territory, so they have to choose Cuba or West Indies or some island nearby the USA. So if we really want to move somewhere else, then we can easily choose the space station, the International Space Station. That's why we have it there. I don't see anything, any sensible motivation to keep a base on moon. We don't have to go anywhere further. So
yeah. I was speaking about disaster recovery, as teacher Lee wrote. Let's say that something terrible happened with the Earth. I don't think that we can survive on the moon without the Earth, you know, without all these fresh oranges and apples from the Earth.
We'd have to have Russian greenhouses underground. Or above
So,
ground.
yeah, but it's only for potato, not to corn. Okay, another question. What I have. Why a planet could become a synestia only once? Why not more than once? So I did not got it from the talk. So already the speaker said, the planet somehow eventually became a synestia and then returned back. Okay, so if it happened once, why it could not happen twice or more times? Any ideas?
Maybe the probability on the space.
Yeah, actually, we're thinking about the question why planet could become a synestia, and one it can be like a repeatable process.
I think the video said it could happen multiple times.
It could.
What forms a synestia is just the speed of rotation. So if a collision happens like on one side of the rotation, it could make you spin faster, which could make you become a synestia. So maybe later another collision slows you down, so you become more spherical. But then later another collision makes you spin again. So you'd have to have a lot of collisions, but it was saying with multiple collisions, you could have multiple synestia phases.
Okay, if it's about collisions or about any external like impact, it's understandable. But I thought it can be like provoked by some internal reasons, some reactions inside the planet or something. Sounds unlikely, right?
Yeah, I don't see how an internal thing could make you spin faster.
So,
I don't understand. Yeah.
If you have a big ball and small ball, which ball is rotating fast? It's a small ball, right?
Well, it just depends on the energy. The moon rotates very slow.
Right.
And the Earth rotates a little faster. Jupiter, I think, rotates extremely fast. So it just depends on, I think, the history, the number of collisions, the number of moons. Sometimes moons might be pulling you faster or pulling against you and making you spin slower. So, but I think the spin depends on external influences mostly. I would say. My guess.
Yeah, my question is really new. Does your people or your country really believe the moon conspiracy that you said didn't go there? Because recently I heard this just 3 months ago when we were working on the decoration for the New Year. Then one of my cousins said that he was bragging about, like, I have read an article. It says about the moon conspiracy. You said didn't even go there because they were. He was mentioning some gravity point. Moon doesn't have a gravity. I read that. He said. Then I said, no, man. It does have some gravity. That's why we have tides there. So I had to convince him, and I was surprised that still educated people believe such conspiracy theories. So I was wondering about your country's people. Do they really still believe?
Well, in Russia we have a small, thin layer of people who believe in weird things, like in a flat earth, in a UFO, and so on. And probably those people can believe that Americans never go to the moon, never went. Probably, I don't know. But in general, if you ask like people on the street, then 91 from 100 will say you that Americans were there. So it's not a question for us. we were rivals with Americans when they went to the moon, but we respect them for success, for being a good rivals. Yeah, so it's not very common thing, conspiracy. Usually, please.
The thing to realize about the moon also is the moon landing happened in 1969. That was a long time ago when computers were primitive, Hollywood special effects were not very good. We broadcast everything live as it was happening. So you heard their voices, you saw what they were doing. and people have analyzed that video footage since then. So for 60 years, people have been analyzing that footage. If it was fake, I think it would have been identified by now. I don't think at that time we had the technology to fake it. We could do it today easily. Yeah, you know. There's actually a movie called Capricorn 1 that is about a fake moon landing on Jupiter or someplace. It's actually a fake, but I think the moon landing, I've got to believe it's real because of the technology at the time, the live broadcasting. Some people say, well, you know, the sky's black, so there's no stars. That's not right. That's got to be fake, you know, and we've proven that with the brightness of the moon's surface, with the cameras, you wouldn't be able to see the stars because of, you know, light exposure. So, but a lot of people don't believe that. No, there should be stars in the sky. You know, it's fake, you know. Look at his reflection. I see a cameraman in his glass on his mask. I see a cameraman, you know. I don't know.
I think the greatest proof is the reflector that they put on the surface of the moon. So with a big telescope, you can see the reflector.
Can you? I don't know. Can you see
that? Reflector. Well, that's what I read. There's a reflector, but a very powerful telescope. Is it possible? And I think maybe a laser also.
Well, what we need is, Ivan, we need Russia to go land on the moon, go find our flag and say, yes, there's an American flag there. That will prove for everyone.
Okay, I'm not sure about American flag, but I read in some articles that 3 years ago in Russia there was a project for like students. So a few universities, they try to make a small rocket to put it to the moon with some you know, dash cam or something to record this area where Americans supposedly visited, yeah. And you know, with modern technology, it's not that complicated. So it's still complicated to put a man there, but to put like a rocket to one side, it's not complicated, yeah. Somehow, I don't know why Russian government prohibited this experiment. So they said you will be not safe with this rocket, or you will make some danger for anyone else. So something like this. So this project didn't take place, which is strange, yeah, for me. So maybe something is there. Yeah, but I think, you know, that in the very near future we will have, you know, a lot of proofs. I think so. Yeah.
But I know my personal belief is if Russia got there and saw the American flag, they'd go, "There's no American flag here. We're the first."
So, but I forgot about this flag. So it must be a flag there. They put it.
Yeah, they put a flag there.
Yeah,
and it was a famous video moment because the flag, there's no wind.
Yeah.
And the flag just kind of stands out like it's stiff.
Yeah, but it was so long time ago, so probably this flag is destroyed by something, I guess.
I read that at least it's all white because the sun would have bleached all the color out.
Okay.
So at best, it's a white flag now.
So what country has a white flag? Do you know?
I don't think anybody.
We use white flag. Surrender, yeah. We use white flag for surrender. Yeah. So what if aliens think that the moon is surrendering for them? Okay, guys, we have a time for one maybe question more. So if you have one, it's time. Something about moon, about speaker, about everything, you know, about space. Okay, if there's no, let me ask you. So when I was young, every child wanted to be an astronaut. it was like a dream for every child. Yeah, I don't want to be a doctor, to nothing, to engineer. I want to be an astronaut. Exactly. It was because of Gagarin, because of a lot of positive propaganda about space and all these things. Yeah? But nowadays, it's interesting that I read about this in one article. So if you ask youngs, and they never ever mention astronaut or space programs or nothing like this. Looks like the gold era of astronaut is gone already. Right? Now they want to be who? YouTube influencer,
Yeah. That's the ideal profession of all millennials. YouTube influencer and working like just making some videos on YouTube and nothing more.
Don't be strict to them. I am trying to be a YouTube influencer now. Yeah, I put a lot of video of my traveling in my video blog, but there are like millions and millions and millions video blogs about traveling. I don't know who watches them. So even I bored to watch my blogs, so I don't know. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for coming. And we have, I think, a lot of precious, valuable dictionary in our chat. I'm going to save it and put it on our site, zemedruk.com. So please come, write your questions, and see you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye.